Welcome to an all-new episode of Get Lit with Lianna, the podcast. Join me as I sit down with a new guest author in each episode to discuss their books, careers, and everything in between. I am so excited about today's episode. I am sitting down with Hannah Brown, aka Hannah B, who is the former Bachelorette and former Bachelor contestant. She wrote a memoir a few years ago called God Bless This Mess, and now she's dabbling in the romance genre with her debut, Mistakes We Never Made. This was such a fun conversation, not only to be get into the themes of the book, the tropes of the book, and kind of her writing background, but we also touched on her history on reality TV, which was so fun for me because if you didn't know, I'm a massive Bachelor fan. So this was a very, very fun episode. I hope you all love it. And without further ado, my conversation with the very, very, very sweet Hannah Brown starts right now. Welcome, Hannah Brown, to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here. I don't know how much you know about me and my show, but obviously I'm a massive fan of romance books. I'm a huge romance reader. I've interviewed like 50 plus romance authors, but I have to say, like, you being here could be the most exciting guest of all, because I'm a diehard Bachelor fan, like literally diehard. And it's just like a full circle moment because my whole social media like career started off with The Bachelor. I used to live tweet episodes like years ago. I was like asked to be on After Paradise when that show was on. They would Zoom me in for commentary, like all of this crazy Bachelor stuff, like years and years ago. And then I totally took a break and I was like, okay, nobody needs to hear my 2 cents on what's happening on the show. And I like pivoted to doing this. And then when I got this email, this pitch that you wanted to come on the show, I was like, wait, this is the most full circle thing ever. So I'm thrilled to have you here. I know my followers will be so excited because we also all like share in that interest, but I'm thrilled to have you here. And I can't believe that you're now writing romance books. I'm so excited. I read the book, obviously, and I loved it. And I have a million questions, but before we like get into the book itself, I would love to know a little bit like about your background and kind of how this whole writing journey kind of started for you post Bachelor, post Dancing with the Stars, post everything you were doing.
Yeah, well, I love that this is a full circle moment for you. I think that's amazing. I feel like a lot of people who like romance novels, like love romance in general and are invested in beautiful love stories. And I think Bachelor definitely gives the audience that type of experience, I feel like. So it makes sense. And so for me, yeah, I mean, my background is how people know me is I was on The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. And I feel like let me back up and say, I've always enjoyed writing, and reading has always been like my escape. I feel like there would be a lot of times like I've talked about like struggle with my mental health for sure, but like reading was always just kind of like my outlet. Sometimes couldn't deal with my own life, so I would just like get invested in other people's.
That's what
And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's healthier for it to be a book than like a real person. So it's great. Get invested in the characters. And so obviously my life kind of took like a complete turn I could have never even dreamt of, but a dream of mine always, I remember being with my mom on our kitchen counter and being like, I don't know if I could do it, but like one day I'd really like to write a book. And fiction. I never realized my first book is a book about my life, which I could have never imagined people wanted to know about my life. That was just not in the cards. I feel like at that kitchen counter, wasn't thinking that way. And at that time, I remember I was talking to my mom. I had this idea about writing a book about my grandmother's life. So, maybe one day.
Okay.
But that was like the first like idea I'd kind of like started thinking about, and would write a few pages and stuff, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
And then life took its own turns. I find myself on TV, and then I've had a crazy experience, and then coming back to myself, like what type of things do I really love? I feel like getting into the space, because it was like a love and an outlet for me, just made sense. And so got with a great team, and we I definitely say if it was me, this would have taken me years to do by myself. really got this book to where it is now that people
Yeah.
are going to be able to read it here soon. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% want to hear more about like the publication process and like the writing process, but
Yeah.
your life on The Bachelor, like that iconic moment with like the pedestal, like moving the thing away from Luke, like all of those things, does that literally feel like 50,000 years ago to you? Like, does that feel like it was a literal other life? Or does it feel like, no, it was like not that long ago?
It feels like a whole different life,
Yeah.
honestly.
I can't even
It's
imagine.
such a bubble
Yeah.
um of just weirdness and like a whole other universe. Like to just know that people have seen some of like my most intimate moments or like some of my biggest like even that whole thing like moving the podium, like for me it's like I blacked out in that moment, that people like think it's like so iconic, and I'm like I honestly don't even remember like what was going on. And so yeah, it's kind of just funny because it feels like definitely it was me, like 1000%. I think that's why people connected, because it was like I forgot I was on the TV show. I'm like
So crazy.
the whole time I just was like plopped into another universe, but I was like living fully as myself in this alter universe.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes it's hard for me because that's not normal circumstances at all. And the way I was, I don't see myself always acting like that in real life, because there's not drama being like
Forced upon
uh,
you.
basically manufactured for me to obviously have a
Yeah.
true reaction to. I feel like my life's pretty like drama free now, so I have to go and find it in other ways,
That's the
make it for other
best.
characters. Yeah.
Best. So like having had all of these experiences and like meeting all these people, like does that help you when you're writing a fictional story to like build out these characters? Because I feel like you've just met so many more people in your life than I feel like an average person meets in their life. Like the amount of connections you've built both online and on TV and offline and in your real life. I feel like you've just like you really have like maxed your like social battery, I feel, and like your network. So is that kind of fun to pull from and play with when you're writing fiction?
Totally. I mean, I feel like I said, I lived in an alternate universe, but also lived like so many lives in like a short amount of time. And that it's great content
Yeah.
in some ways, being able to like have so many experiences in a few years. And from that, I was able to draw a lot of inspiration from and for, this specific project, but for projects in the future, like I've
Yeah.
got a lot of material to pull from, because I've met, like you said, so many different people. I've dated so many types of people at the same time. So like I know how different experiences can play out, how different types of people can make me feel,
Right.
and how can I like bring all that into a character. Um, I feel lucky in that sense that I've gotten to like draw from my like inspiration from my life that also happens to be like really entertaining.
Yeah, sure. And I feel like your storytelling skills, like just even beyond your books, like from when you like used to do your vlogs and stuff, like when you were back dating and you were like filming you going on dates and like those vlogs were epic. And I was also single at the time. And I remember just like being taken on such a journey with those vlogs. Was that also kind of fun to tap into? Like then having to write a romance element, like remembering what it was like back to like when you were in that phase, like dating, like thinking about all of those elements too.
I love that you bring up those vlogs, because me meeting my fiance honestly like upset me, because I enjoy doing those vlogs so
I can
much.
imagine the content
I was
and
like, the content ended, and I was like, this, and it was just starting. I was like, this is so much fun.
yeah.
And obviously, like so many, I mean, I met my fiance on a dating app. Like
Yeah.
we all know, dating at this time in life and society, like most of us have gone on a dating app and like, what are we getting ready for? We have no clue what we're doing. And so to be able to like document that was so fun.
Yeah.
So I hate that. Like one breath, I hate that that's ended, but I'm also glad that like I found my person.
For sure. Worth it.
It was worth it. It was worth it. Um, But oh my gosh, what was your question? I feel like
Just like the storytelling aspect of that. Like, do you miss or like do you still draw on
oh my
those like,
gosh.
fun, flirty experiences that maybe now, like, obviously is a bit different because you're in like a long-term committed relationship, you're getting married. Like, how did that kind of aspect or part of your life lend to storytelling, I guess?
Oh my gosh. I mean, in a huge way. I feel like when you just in general for women that are like dating, like it can be frustrating sometimes to feel like, oh, I'm having to like put myself out there again and again and again. But with that comes so many different stories that not only like you're experiencing, but you're getting to like hear about somebody else. And um like I love meeting new people. So like it was always great for me just to be able to be like, oh, I met this cool person and I do not want to date them, but like there's always a story after first date. There's always something you're coming back to tell your girlfriends about how it went. So absolutely. But even I'll say like in this relationship, been able to like get a lot of inspiration from what it feels like to be in a long-term relationship, what makes it different, what makes it different for something to work. So I think there's really inspiration everywhere, but especially for writing a romance, like of course any dating relationship, I felt like when I'm going to the drawing board and when we started this book, like I definitely pulled from feelings that I'd had in different dating opportunities and times in my life.
Right. So, how did this whole thing unfold? Like, you wrote your memoir, and I feel like everyone was talking about it. Like, I absolutely loved it. I remember, like, if you scroll all the way down on my page, you could find a picture of like me holding the book with like a screenshot of one of the Bachelorette episodes, like in the background. I was like friggin' dying. I've read like every Bachelor related book. I was so excited. But when I found out you were writing like a fictional romance, I literally squealed because I was like, this is so perfect. And clearly you can write. So like it's going to be good. But how did you like get the courage or like the idea of like, hey, I'm going to write a fictional book? And how did you even get like a pub deal? Like tell me all of like the behind the scenes writing stuff.
Well, actually, this started so long ago. I feel like not this exact book, but I think I got approached because when I was asked, like my whole world opened up, like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I would love to um, write books and I want to write fiction because that was more what I was into. So that was like, I'm talking like 2019, 2020, we're talking about this. And at the time, I had an idea and was workshopping an idea for a young adult series
Okay.
and like got it pretty flushed out, even like a few chapters in. Um, and my team helped me find like a really great ghostwriter to help with that because I have like a lot of the ideas for
So
sure
hard.
and can
So
like
hard.
um will like write a few pages of like how I want something to like go and the experience with the person I want them to like how would they react to these things like kind of like the overall almost like pitch and then like well now like doing these pub things like you'll
Yeah.
have the overall like one sheet and then like like sample chapters or sample pages like I can do that part
Yeah.
but me sitting down writing a full book by myself like I'm the worst procrastinator and everything takes me like I need to probably go to the doctor like everything just takes me longer than everyone else like I have always pretty been like a strong writer. That was something that I did really well with in school. But when I tell you I'd have to start like immediately, and it would always, it just took me for, I would spend hours and hours while I talk to my friends and like in school, and they're like, why did that take you so long? I'm like, I don't know. Everything just, it's hard for me because I'm a perfectionist and want it to be right in that way too. But then also, it takes me like 15 minutes to make my bed. So it's in every part of my life. But anyway, we got this really great idea and then things shifted and it ended up doing the memoir, and that kind of like fell through, and we were like, oh, maybe we'll, go back to that at some point. And I was really disappointed in that, but just a lot was happening at the time. And then the first book did great, but I was like, this is like still like this one idea, and like getting into this space, something I always want to do. And so the people that I had collaborated with like just like even coming up with the ideas, reached back out and was like, is this something that you are still interested in? I'm like, yes. No, okay. I know we had like a great YA like start. I love it, but we really, are looking at a lot of it is also like business. Like what is like
100%.
well, like what are people really leaning into? And like romance is something, adult romance is definitely like hot. It's what people love. And I was like, I mean, that also probably makes more sense because the people that follow me, I feel like are all around my age and the same life experiences. And I mean, I love a good YA book, but that's just not where I'm at this point in my life. So I was like, okay, like I could totally pivot. And that's kind of how this started. Same thing, like people, I worked with a great team when we started just like pitching ideas. And yeah, we just kind of, I can't remember exactly how it was. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out
It's okay.
exactly how it was sent through.
The book that you ended up publishing, like Mistakes We Never Made, that was not even like a version of the YA series. It was something totally like net new that you guys had come up with.
Totally net new, but I feel like the main character of the YA book is like very similar to Emma.
Okay.
Different background in a sense, but also just like the main character of this book, and then there's also a second book coming, like each girl of the core four, I would say in this first book, The Mistakes We Never Made, the core four group of girls,
Yeah,
Nikki, Willow, Sybil, and Emma are all kind of like pieces of me, I would say.
for sure.
Like parts of my personality, but like in a more of extreme way. And I would say like growing up, I was definitely more like Emma type A. Like I've lost a little bit of that of myself, but always feeling like I had to like keep it together. And that was kind of in the YA book, the main character was that same way. And so that was like the thing that we kind of kept of like, this is the part of me that I want to dive into first, because I feel like that was the part of me that really like was the beginning. And then I feel like other things in my life, like we touch on some parts in the different characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really the only thing that stayed. But totally different like tropes that are happening. So, but there was like 2 years in between all that, maybe 3.
Okay.
So started all over, then started like say had to do this thing, yeah, full over again, like had a few ideas for what like I've liked in different romance books, and kind of like drawing off my own inspiration in my life and what I've enjoyed, like the content that I've enjoyed taking in, and came up with Mistakes We Never Made. And yeah, you like I said, it's like usually like a 1 page, a few samples of like a sample chapter, and then you just like hope people come back and want to do a deal with you, and then you take a bunch of meetings and really just find the team that you feel like is going to like align best with what you see for the book and really believe in the book. And I would say like the publishers at Forever, and like it was so cool to see people get it, like really like be like invested in it, and like no, like I had a great experience with my memoir, but like this is a whole different level of like the editor and the publisher being so involved and so excited about this book, and really just being like an integral part of making sure that everything is just like so nicely like tightened up. And it's been an amazing process. Like I've been so excited the whole way through. And I would not say that was my experience with the memoir, because also that's just a whole different thing. But this has just been fun, and like such a fun creative way for me to like have an outlet, and also have like a team that's like supporting me, but like definitely understands how important my vision is and wants to do everything to make sure that we get it to where everyone else gets to experience like the tip top of exactly what I want to
Yeah,
come into fruition.
for sure. So for those people that haven't yet read the book, can you give like a little elevator pitch about what Mistakes We Never Made is about? I know, the worst question ever. Everyone always gets mad at me when I ask. I'm sorry.
I know, I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so
Fine.
um it's about Emma is as our main character, and she is like definitely type A, feels like she has to be the one that takes care of everyone. And it is her best friend's wedding. And so the setting is this wedding weekend, getting ready to celebrate her best friend Sybil, like marrying the love of her life. Sybil is very different than Emma, and Emma loves to be able to take care of Sybil. Like they kind of like work well, because Sybil's the one that kind of needs somebody to take care of her and is a little all out of control, but they're able to like they work well together. That's why they're best friends, because they each can like get their needs met. And then Sybil ends up turning up missing, and nobody can get a hold of Sybil. And of course, Emma, being the way that she is, feels like it's her duty to save Sybil from not making a huge mistake. And she is like, I've got to find her. She can't miss her wedding, but I have no idea where she is. So she has to enlist some help from her arch nemesis from the past, Finn, who we find out she's had multiple, will they, won't they moments with, and definitely in a place where they're not on the best terms, but she needs a car and he's got a car, and they go on a wild goose chase to find Sybil. And in that time, we as readers get to kind of see if these enemies will turn to lovers. How will they be able to go on this road trip together, and will they find Sybil before the big day?
It's such a fun book. I don't know if people have like said this to
You
you
feel
yet.
like I did an okay job?
No, fabulous, fabulous. I do these all the
Okay.
time. You did a great. A plus, A
Okay,
plus.
great.
But this book is like the perfect summer read. Like truly, like it has every aspect of like a fun, light romance book that you want. And what I loved about it is that you played with so many different romance tropes. And I know you said that you're a romance reader and you mentioned tropes before. What was that like? Like in your outlining or like conception phase of this process, where you like needs to be second chance, needs to be an element of enemies to lovers, needs to be romance, needs to be road trip, needs to be forced proximity. Like, did you think of all of these epic tropes before you started even writing, or did they like kind of fall into place?
No, it was definitely strategic, I
Okay.
would say, about I was honestly thinking of this movie. I mean, sorry, I said movie. I was thinking of this book, like how do I want to picture it? What do I want to see? And was kind of like thinking about like what would this be like as a movie?
Yeah.
And how would I get people like hooked into it immediately? So that was actually like kind of where like I started from. And so um I wanted to set this book up for success of being able to like really hit those tropes of why people love rom-coms, and really kind of dug into that. Um, and then we kind of like that's where it kind of started. Like we had these characters, and like I said, like the main character like based on me, and then like having the other three girls be like parts of me, and wanted to have like that friendship aspect too. I will say one thing that was really important to me is like I knew it was important that if we're going into romance, that we have the things that make something like a great romance beach read novel. So like had that nailed down, but I also wanted there to be some depth to it that I feel like you can find in some, and then I think some romance novels kind of miss the mark in that. It's like we are only just playing up these tropes. We really don't get to like understand like why a character acts or responds in a certain way. And that means like you kind of have to do like a lot of digging, which was easier for me because I was able to like recall because it was like a part of myself. So like how would I respond in that when I'm in that part of myself?
Right.
So that was like the part, it was like, okay, we can be strategic about wanting there to be these different tropes and what makes something like fast paced and and something like really engaging and entertaining for this audience that loves these types of books. But something that was like so crucial for me was the character development and making sure that we didn't just like enter into these tropes and it's like, oh, well why do they hate each other? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, okay, we really need to like understand where this is coming from. Like, how does Finn trigger Emma? How does Emma trigger Finn? Like, did I say this back?
Yeah. No.
I don't know if I said this. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so that was like really, really important for me. We went back and forth, and that made there be like a lot of editing because it was like I wanted it to be really understandable and relatable while we're getting into these like situations that make for really great entertainment, but they had to make sense as to why somebody was like
For sure.
feeling these types of way and finding themselves in these classic trope situations too.
No, that
Does
makes
that make sense?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
because it's very obvious that like all of it is super intentional. Like you give very valid rationale background to like all of the characters' motives. So
Mhm.
it's very obvious when you're reading the story, like kind of what you said back to your first point about it being like a movie. It's almost like you're watching it. And it's like, even though you're not in every single character's head and throughout the duration of the book, it's very obvious, like what type of role each of these character plays to the other
Yeah.
in the relationship sense. But what I loved about this book is obviously it's a romance between Emma and Finn, but it's also a love story about like four best friends.
Yeah.
I love that you included that. I mean, like I follow you on social media. I know how like you have a great group of friends and that's something that like you really value. But what was that like to kind of write out? And I know you've mentioned it and I know you've said it before, how you tried to put like different parts of you into each of the characters. And like that is definitely evident. But like why was having this aspect of the story, these like four best friends, something that you thought was not only critical to the story, but also something that like you enjoyed writing or that you wanted to write?
Yeah, because I think it's like critical to life. Like, I think a lot of times we think of love and we think of like um love between two people in a, you know, romantic way. And that's great. And I'm like, obviously, like I've like gone on that search for that type of love for millions of people to watch. Like I think it's very important. And I think we're made for attachment in that way, just as humans. But I think there are all different types of love, and some of the greatest love stories I think are between and are in friendships. And so I know in my own life how imperative my friendships and those support and our dynamics have been in some of the greatest, the love that I've been able to create with my partner. My friends have been there every step of the way. I mean, think of all, like I said, like earlier, when you go on the first date, like who's the first person you call after? It's your best friend. And they're in so many of those parts of our life. They're the person that you're going to call and going to cry to when it doesn't work out and your partner hurts you in some way. And so I wanted to be able to really showcase that because I know in my life how important my friendships have been and like are some of the greatest loves in my life. And I think it's important for women to remember that, especially when like our love stories and our like the love of our lives is not there, it's still unfolding, like that there's always like love to give and receive in other areas of our life. And I think one of those greatest areas is friendship.
For sure. So when you like look back at the writing process as a whole, what was like the most fun, rewarding part of the story to write? And if it's a spoiler, then you don't have to say that. We could rephrase a question to a different part, but
I would say the relation, I don't know if you would say it was like fun, but it like the part that I really loved writing and digging deeper into is the relationship between Emma and her dad. Um, because like I said, Emma is a part of me, and that part of you wanting to be able to control and fix things comes from something in your past. Comes from usually when that kind of can be at an extreme, like it is with Emma. You have to question, like, why does she respond the way that she does? Like, how is she trying to protect herself?
mm-hmm.
And when you get into understanding more of Emma's backstory and her relationship with her dad, it makes sense why she is the way that she is, why she has developed these ways of being able to cope and protect herself because of the family dynamics that she experienced. And so that was really important for me to get right and to really dive into more, because I think this story would never be what it is without
Sure.
understanding how Emma came to be the way that she is. And that kind of goes from this, origin wound of her dad not being in her life and just up and leaving and feeling like she had to kind of fill in the gaps and take more control of her life. And yeah.
Do you feel like
Kind of be there for her mom and her sister, because there was a big hole in her life that she had to feel like she had to step into for her whole family.
obviously like writing the memoir, there's a level of like relief, I guess, or like catharsism that comes with that. Do you find that you had a similar experience writing this book, even though it was fictional, because of how much you put into it as yourself? Like whether or not it's the exact same situation, but just like putting parts of you into the story, do you feel that sense of like relief or like that it did something
Yeah.
to your soul?
Yeah. I feel like it's still very different because of also the timing of when these two projects happen. I feel like when I wrote God Bless This Mess, I was like still fully in the mess and honestly just diving into, for the first time with my therapist. I'm like, I like hired my therapist to come to the writing sessions. It's like I am processing and writing at the same time. So like that was really hard. So like think about trying to do a project while you're in therapy for like a week at a time. Like the first part, it was really hard. And then having to continue reliving that every time you're editing. So like that was so tough. I don't think there's any way anything else is going to feel like that, because even if I call that my quarter life memoir. There's a memoir in the future. It won't be the first time that I'm ever like dealing with my own feelings and really uncovering who I am and why I am the way I am, kind of like the Emma story of like, what's my origin wounds? Like I had no idea what I was doing at that point.
Right.
So for this, I feel like I'm obviously a little detached from it because it's not my own story, but I infuse my story in there, but it's in a healthier a way that I am like, it wasn't as emotional because I'm not as much in that emotional state. So it was honestly like more like, it felt good to put to be able to draw from what I have learned about myself and reflected on even more, like had the space in between and to put that in there. Like it was important to me. And I think every time you share your story, it's cathartic. So of course, like putting those parts of myself into the story was a cathartic experience, but like in a much like healthier, easier way, I would say. And yeah, it attaches me more to the story, which I think in anything that you do develop, I feel like when you're attached to a character, like you just love them so much more, and you want to like, even though it's not my full story, it's that there's parts of me I want to make sure that I like um hold that, build that, protect that as much as possible, because there's parts of me in there, and that like I really give Emma the credit that she deserves of showing her as a full person.
Yeah. That makes
Because part of her as a person is me.
right. No, of course. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. To now like shift gears a bit more to like the artistic side of this book, I would love to know like how the title came to be, how the cover art came to be. It's like actually so gorgeous. I'm so happy that I have a physical copy now to add to my crazy bookshelf. But I'm
Oh,
obsessed.
I would love I bet your bookshelf is.
Oh, you would love it if you're like at all OCD like me. It's like color coordinated from like rainbow, but it's like
I mean, like, obviously I'm not
I
OCD. Look at my
no,
shelf.
but
It's
I
that.
still am obsessed. I'm like trying to like zoom in. Like, what are the books on there that I have read? Like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
take a little peek. But how did this whole like title and the cover art come to be? Like, were you involved at all? I've heard mixed things from authors. Sometimes there's like literally zero involvement. Sometimes they're so involved. Like, I would love to hear what your experience was like with those little artistic choices.
I did not come up with the name. I think there was like I I don't remember how that came to be.
Okay.
Um, it wasn't like initial we had the name.
Okay.
But I think there was like a few, like maybe like two ideas, and then I was like, mistakes we never made, just like I can't believe there's like it's a great, I was like, this is perfect because it's, we go in the book, you kind of go back to some of these times where like Emma and Finn had almost like their will they won't they's kind of happen, and like they would they make the mistake and mistakes in quotes of
Yeah.
really taking that risk, I feel like. And so I loved the title, and I was like, this is perfect. It sounds great. It goes with the book, but doesn't like give anything fully away. It's like you hear that and you're like, oh, what are the mistakes? What is this?
Yeah.
So love that. As far as the cover, I definitely had ideas of what I wanted the cover to be, and I feel like they like nailed it on the head. I was so excited when I saw the I guess it would be the, why can I not think of words? What is it called? The
Mock-up?
like, mock-ups.
Yeah.
Yes. And this was like pretty, we had all of the different, like, I feel like romance novels kind of have like, there's a few different categories of what they're going to look like. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I don't always love a lot of the ones that I
Oh,
feel
Hannah
like
B judges books by the cover.
yeah. I do though. I
Everyone
don't always,
does.
yeah, like I don't always like, which our paperback version will probably be in the same vein of this, and when it's like two people, because maybe like the people on the cover I don't actually match what I have in my
Right.
head, and it's things like that. So, and I also um wanted it to be like really colorful and like just like a beautiful background. Like I was like, I just want it to be like a beautiful book.
Yeah.
And obviously like a main set, or not obviously, but one of the settings in the book is the Grand Canyon. So I thought that would be beautiful. So we kind of I was like, I think let's try one with the Grand Canyon and almost like a watercolor.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And it's so beautiful. And I love all the colors. We went back and forth so much about like, I don't remember how many times, like the actual font and the color of my name, like that went back and forth. We had the base of like what the like cover art was going to look like. I feel like that happened really quickly. And like I said, there was multiple different mock-ups that kind of like were totally different than this one, but I saw this one and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. And so let's go with that. And it looks great. And I know all these other ones like match what maybe like with on a shelf somebody might go to, but I'm like, this one feels the most like me. We're doing this. And I love it. I think it's great.
Love that.
It's like, here.
It's right there. It's so funny because I'm in the thick of planning my wedding. I mean, by the time this goes live, I will have been married. So
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like so soon.
no, I'm literally getting married in a week. And like, I can't even begin to.
Congratulations. But I haven't even started my wedding planning because it feels like it's a full-time job. And
No,
I like freaked out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do this right now. I am like really excited about this book. And I want to be able to like fully be invested in talking about it, getting it out there, and like going in and meeting people who are fans. Like that is like so important. And I can't do that while doing a wedding. I don't feel like, because everything takes me like 10 hours. So
I was going to say, for your procrastination brain, I'm sure it's going to be quite a journey for you to plan a wedding. But it's so funny because you're talking about like the colors and stuff of the book and the font. And it's like, I just remember being in invitation hell and like stationery hell of like this font versus this font. I'm like, they look the exact same to me. Someone else just effing pick. Like, this is what I like. Someone else. Like, I just don't have the brain for that. So it's like so nice that you were presented options that like all felt good and that there was one that clearly stuck out to you and you were like, hey, this is where I'm going with, to like not have to put energy into a part of this that like isn't so your wheelhouse, if that makes sense.
totally. Like we had like a discussion of what we wanted it to look like before. And they're like, what I wanted it to look like before is what it ended up being. But I loved being able to see more options of what directions like we could go. And it just really cemented what I knew I wanted.
Yeah.
And that was nice. But I'm the same way. Like making decisions is so hard for me. And that's what's so great about, like, I know that I have so much privilege from just the experiences that I've had to be able to have a team like I do. Like, that's what I mean by like, I don't think I think I can write, but it would take me 15 years. Like, it's like probably not an exaggeration.
No.
But to have people that are like on me about things and like we have deadlines and also giving me options and being like, okay, I know this is how this is where we're wanting the story to go. And I love your ideas, but what about if this is actually what happens? And I'm like, okay, no, I still like this idea better, but thank you for giving me the option. Or, there was times that I'm like, okay, let's scrap all that. I love this idea. Let's go with that. So I know how lucky I am with that in the book. And I know how lucky I'll be because I am definitely hiring a wedding planner. And I've already talked to them and I'm like, you have to give me option A, option B.
Literally.
And that's all I need. I'm going to tell you exactly what I want for like the big vision.
Yeah.
And I need you to give me option A, option B.
Yeah. You're going to be even better standing than me because I went into it being like, I want everything sterile and white and I want it to be minimal and clean and airy. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I want more candles. I want gray. My wedding planner's like, what? So it's a godsend having a wedding planner. Like I know some people who have done it without a wedding planner and they've managed, but I have to say everyone that I've spoken to that has done it with a wedding planner has had so much less stress on their plate. Like the fact that I'm getting married in a week and I'm just getting sent invoices to pay and I'm not having to deal with vendors or whatever is a dream. Imagine I was running around the city now trying to go pay people and do things and coordinate. Like who has the time, especially with this?
I honestly don't know how people do it.
It's out of control.
I don't know how. Like I'm so happy for you that you have a wedding planner because I also like have friends who've done it themselves, but you can just tell the level of stress and like the day and the preparation. You can't fully enjoy it, but I understand why people don't have them because they are more expensive. And you have to if you feel like you have the support around you that can help you, that's great. But I'm proud of us that we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. We're reallocating funds from elsewhere to invest in the mental support that we need.
Yeah,
Everyone
exactly.
each their own. Before I let you go, I just need to know, because you mentioned it at the very beginning, that there's another book. So like, can you tell me anything about what you're working on? Are you allowed to share? I don't even know if this is like.
Yes, I didn't know I was allowed to share, but I talked to my team before this call
Okay.
because it's like no, it's been announced, but not like we haven't like
Okay.
really like pushed it yet because we really want people to be excited about this book and what's like already like all here. Yes, I have started the process of the second book right now. And, I hope that when people read the book, they're really interested in the other characters and, maybe like what is happening and want to know like what comes next. And so that is the books too.
Okay, so I'm like reading between the lines as to like who book 2 could be about.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's really hard to go into like what the second book is.
It's really exciting though. And like the fact that we're going to get more of this story world, I think is what like readers who love this book will want to know. And that's
Totally.
the best part.
Yeah, like the idea is for people to really get invested not only in the like actual, you know, romance between, Emma and Finn, but also her friends and want to know more about their stories and want to like be fully invested in this world. And so in the second book, we kind of dive more into the world of the core four. And this one's really, really fun. And I think it's also going to be like, very thought out of like what type of book and what type of setting do I want when I'm on a vacation on my honeymoon, like, that type of book. So I think I'm like so excited. Obviously, like I love mistakes we never made, but like it's so fun to like keep branching out the story and the world because you have so much to go on now.
Yeah.
So it's been fun.
It's so funny because I'll speak to so many authors who are in similar positions where they're like promoting a book and then they're currently working on like the next one. And they're like more than happy to talk about the book that they just put out and that they're promoting, but like they're so in the story of the book that they're currently writing and all they want to do is gush about that one, but like they can't. So it's so funny to like light up so excited about the second one, but like be tongue tied and not be able to speak about it. So I fully
understand. Because I'm like, I don't really know what I can say. And also nobody knows how this one ends. So the book is not like finished yet. I honestly don't know fully where it has a few ways it could continue to go. Like that's what's so fun is we're in like the creative process of it all. But yeah, so it's a 2-book deal. So there's definitely a second book coming and I'm really, really pumped, but that's where my main focus is like right now creatively.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. Well, thank you so, so much. This was so fun. I always said when I started this, like my book account and then like my podcast, I always said like it would be so cool to like one day have someone who's like not from my book loving life be on this show. And like you're my first ever crossover. And like that it's you because like me and my friends obviously like watched every single Monday night like psychopaths and would rewind and still rewatch iconic scenes. And so this
I love that. It makes me so happy like that there's a relation like that you like watched The Bachelor, and that's how you started everything. And now like going up together. That's kind of my life.
Yeah.
That's kind of my life too. Like I'm going back into like, I'm so like the opportunities that I've had have been so awesome, but really being able to like connect with this like creative side and stuff that I love and getting back into just like the book world. Cause I feel like it's like a whole other world too. Yeah. It's fun. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay. Well, have a lovely rest of your evening. I appreciate your time and we'll be in touch. I'll have this go live.
Awesome.
Like the week of the pub when it comes out. So in April.
Okay. Perfect. Are you watching Joey season right now?
I am. So I'm originally from here. Wait, let me stop the recording 1 minute. Hang on.